Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode, a bonus summer episode of Behind the Stack, where today I am sitting down with debut author Leigh Dunlap for her new thriller, Bless Your Heart. A little bit about Leigh. She is the screenwriter of the hit Warner Brothers movie A Cinderella Story. A native of Los Angeles, she attended film school at the University of Southern California. She now splits time and personalities between South Carolina and South Kensington and dreams of one day giving it all up and searching for a buried treasure. Until then, she writes movies and books, including this one, her debut novel. So please enjoy this episode of Behind the Stack. Um, Hey, everybody. I'm really happy to have on the show this week for part of our a bonus summer episode, author Leigh Dunlap for her brand new book, Bless Your Heart, which is such a fantastic, fun thriller. Yes, and it's behind her as well in much larger size. But it's a great Southern thriller. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me. I'm thrilled.
The book is so much fun. It is dishy and it is twisty. And I will absolutely say, and I'm one of these people who, anytime I read a thriller or a mystery, I'm immediately trying to figure out who it is that the killer is.
Me
And
too.
and I absolutely did not figure it out. So kudos to
Yay.
you. So,
Thank you. Yay.
so before we get in the book, I would just love to dive into your background a little bit. Like, where are you from originally?
I was born in Missouri, lived there till I was 5 or 6, something like that, and then grew up in Studio City, California. The Valley. I'm a Valley girl.
You're a Valley girl.
For sure.
And
Totally.
oh my God. Did you find that you had an accent that you had to lose?
No.
Like a regionalism?
No, no, never. And especially California, there are no accents. You can always tell someone from Los Angeles they don't have an accent. It's just what it is.
That is
So
so funny because I think my daughter has a bit of a Valley accent going to a Valley
really,
school. Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
And it may be just the young girl thing. It's the upglides.
Might be,
So maybe it's that.
might be.
Um, all right. So you grew up in Studio City and then, now the information I do have is so for a while you were working at an agency, right? You worked at the Gersh agency.
I worked for Bob Gersh at the Gersh Agency. Great experience, invaluable. I always tell anybody who wants to be an actor, or I guess even a writer, you want to do that, go work at a talent agency. You'll read scripts all day long and, deal with all the business side of it and really see how things work. So that, and, Bob Gersh is just an outstanding guy. So it was a wonderful experience.
Now, when you started there originally, did you think you wanted to be an agent?
No,
You didn't.
never
Okay.
wanted to be an agent. Still don't want to be an agent, but it turned out to be a great thing. Yeah, it's not in my personality. You have to go out and sign people and take people, steal people, and then deal with actors, some of who are wonderful, some who aren't, but just like everybody. So it takes a certain person definitely to be able to do it, and I'm not that person.
Oh my God, I think you've just pitched your next thriller.
Yeah, but who dies? Like, do we kill an
Right.
actor?
Right. Well, yeah, maybe so.
Maybe.
So you then ended up writing a screenplay for which was very successful, a Cinderella story.
Yeah.
And how did that come about for you then? Was it part of it just you were reading so many scripts so constantly
Yeah.
that you thought, I want to take a stab at this and see what happens?
I always wanted to be a screenwriter since I was literally a little kid. I think maybe growing up in Studio City had something to do with that. I went to school with kids whose parents were actors, and I love to write. It's just you're in Studio City, you're
Yeah.
surrounded by it. And I went to school at the University of Southern California, the cinema school there. So, and studied screenwriting. It was the second year of the screenwriting program there. So God, it makes me sound really old. But really, I think I learned how to write a script by reading them. But just I can't even tell you how many, definitely hundreds, if not a couple of thousand scripts when I worked at the Gertz agency. So I was always trying, and just one thing led to another, and got hooked up with some people who wanted to do a version of Cinderella, a modern version, and they didn't
Mm.
want to pay any money. So, hi. So you knew that's what you get to do. You take whatever opportunities come. So I wrote the script, and overnight success 5 years later.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Exactly.
it got to Hillary Duff, and then it literally was kind of overnight from that. I think it was a matter of maybe a month or so before we went into pre-production and
Wow.
just went from there. So it was crazy once it happened, but it was a long time to happen.
Yeah. And did it go through any rewrites?
Oh my God. I used to do school things where I would come with like a dolly of all of the drafts I did. And that was the drafts I did. Then they hired other people to do more of them. And I want to say 30 at least, on my
Wow.
end, kind of never ending thing. It sat at Warner Brothers rewriting, then they got more people to rewrite, and then they threw all that away and went back to my version. And it's very typical of Hollywood, as you know. It's not rewriting, it's
Mm.
rewriting, as they say.
Yeah, I guess it was probably also uh, good practice for what would be coming with a book as well, and also just to be like
Yeah.
not to take things personally, just be like, okay, this is what it has to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and I did take it personally at first. So now I don't.
Yeah.
Now it's just like a book's different. I think with a screenplay, it's very much you have to realize that this is something that 100 or more people are making.
Mm.
It's not just you. They take your blueprint, and then it's a director and actors and an art director and a studio, and I mean goes on and on and on. You might think it's yours, but you really have to kind of step back and say, this is a group effort, and I'm just a little part of it.
Mm. Going back to when you were reading, I'm so curious, was there anything that you read that you thought, oh my God, this is going to be something, and then it turned into something, or either a hit,
Yeah,
or was there anything you read that you thought this is fantastic and it never went?
probably. Yeah, three things. I don't know about Fantastic Never Went, because most of the stuff that came to us was casting, so it
Okay.
was already going. But there was a script called, I think it's called Son of the Morning Star. It was based on a book. It was Melissa Matheson
Yeah.
wrote
Okay.
it, and it was about Custer. And they
Wow.
did make that. I don't think I ever saw it. I think it was Gary Cole maybe played Custer.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I ever saw it, but that was an incredible script. She was an incredible writer. And then I read at the time, which was just the play, which was A Few Good Men. And they were starting to, so that was super interesting. And then Silence of the Lambs.
Oh,
I was
wow.
blown away by that one. So those were definitely the ones that stuck in my head all these years. I still remember those scripts. They were so
That's
great.
amazing.
It was
Yeah,
fun.
for Melissa Matheson, she wrote E.T. That was one of her big
E.T.
things that she was known for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is amazing.
When I was an actor in New York, I worked at what was then Tower Records. So
Yeah.
there, I'm dating myself. Um, but one of the rock managers was this guy who kind of looked like a kind of schlubby version of Jim Morrison. Like he had kind of pity
Okay.
skin and like long hair, but that's kind of what he was. But anyway, he knew I was an actor and he said, I wrote the script. Would you read it and tell me what you think? And I was like, sure. So I read the script and it was called The Seven Deadly Sins. And so I read this whole thing and it got very dark in the end. And I was like, Andy, it's
Oh
so good, but
no.
it's so dark. And he was like,
Oh,
I get it. I was like, that ending was so dark. And he was like,
oh
yeah. And like
no.
3 weeks later, he was taken to Hollywood by Scorsese and it was Seven, which I was
Which
always like,
I never read, but man, that
I
that
mean,
thing was dark. It was so
like
good.
we didn't even know. It was just like he was gone and then suddenly boom,
Oh,
like
I
Brad
love
Pitt.
that.
And I remember like just that moment of like you're brushing shoulders with someone every day telling you to put, go backs out on the floor. And then they would like, write this screenplay that kind of, launches his career. So it's just such an interesting thing. But
And it
um
doesn't happen that often, kids.
no,
Just to
no,
let you know. All of you at
yeah.
home, it doesn't happen.
No, and you think of all the things that never got made and that just that giant, giant
Yeah.
slush pile. It's
Oh
crazy.
yeah. I would say, I've sold more things that haven't been made than have been made.
Yeah.
It's just how many things are purchased. Yeah, how many things aren't purchased, obviously, but then how many
Right.
things are purchased that never see the light of day. And even like a Cinderella story, when we I'm trying to think when we first went out with it, I think there were at least five other Cinderella projects in town.
Mm.
So that just happens. I mean, you think of like Armageddon, and Deep
Yep.
Impact. Like, how does this
Yep.
happen? It just does, for
Yeah.
no good reason. Just it's just out there in the universe somehow. It just does.
It's crazy. Um, all right. So you wrote these screenplays. You decided that the agency thing then wasn't for you. Then how did you get to books?
It was a long time. Um, well, I mean, the 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 short answer, I guess, is the pandemic and the strike. Like, and I've heard that it brought a lot of screenwriters to novel writing.
Mm.
So I'm not the only one. So there's really like a lot of us in the industry, there just wasn't anything to do.
Yeah.
And I had this idea, and I honestly knew that even if I wrote it as a screenplay, or in this case, I want it to be a series, I would never sell it. It would never sell that way. But if it were a book, it might. If you had the IP of a book, so the intellectual property,
Mm.
a book, a book is intellectual property, a play, a toy, a lot of cases, and it brings sort of a built-in audience. So it kind of hedges the bets for a company. If you have a successful book, then they're like, well, there's a lot of people that like that, so we'll have viewers like right off the bat. So it was kind of the idea. I'll try to write a book. I have this time. It's a pandemic, and then a strike.
Mm.
And so I just gave it a shot. And here we are.
Wow. And uh, first of all, how was that process for you going from writing
Mm.
a screenplay, which is you're doing dialogue and cut to interior of
Yeah.
to details?
Yeah, hard. Um, I hadn't really done that kind of writing since I was in school,
Yeah.
probably high school, like since I was in high school. So, I would sometimes just get maybe a little bogged down, and I just want to say, Birdie enters, Shay finds a body, and then I'm like, okay, no, you got to actually describe this. So yeah, it was wild. There's a lot more words involved in a novel, it turns out.
It's funny
So,
that.
but I mean, it's true. But I think, the structure remains the same, at least for me. In this kind of book, it is written the way I would write it as a movie, or
Hmm.
a TV series. So that's not so different, and it's character based, and that was kind of the fun part, was you really get to get into the characters, whereas in a screenplay I have maybe two lines to write a character,
Yeah.
and you better get it right then. So, and then it's kind of up to an actress, at that point, and it's still, in this case, it's up to a reader, um, to put that person in their mind, and that's cool too. But I did get to give, a little more detail.
Yeah, I feel like it gives you a little, I would feel, and maybe, I don't know if you do, it feels like a little more ownership of the character
Mm,
than it is with a screenplay, because you could write it and maybe you even write it with something in mind, but it is so much dependent on then casting and dependent on what the studio wants and what
yeah.
what the TV that the network wants, or who higher up, or all those things. Where
Casting director wants.
yeah, yes. What are you saying? But when you're creating this character in your mind, you're putting it out there, and like you said, a reader is filling it in with their own interpretation of that.
Yeah,
But you've
cool.
also fleshed so much of more of it out. Um, it's so interesting, knowing that you come from that, you know, screenplay background and all of that, and you're immersed in a talent agency. Do you write with people in mind, or are you able to separate it out?
For the most part, I separate it out, which is the same way I feel like when I write a screenplay, because I want
Mm,
it to be open to the casting director, to the director, to actors, to be able to fill in the blanks, and put their own stamp on it. And in this case, to the readers, kind of, could somebody see themselves in it, or
Yeah.
envision it in their head? To just leave it a little more open. But there was one person I wrote a character for from front to back, and that was Melissa McCarthy for Birdie. She's the only person I thought of the whole time. And that would be the dream. So Melissa, that would be the dream if you played Birdie Milton.
I
But
mean, I'm serious. Like, we've got to get it to her. Okay, so wait,
I know.
so we can get into this. Um, do you have like an elevator pitch of Bless Your Heart for our audience?
All right, it is Big Little Lies meets Desperate Housewives meets The Real Housewives of Atlanta. It's a fun and twisty tale of the murder of the Golden Boy of Atlanta society and the investigation to find out which one of Atlanta's upstanding citizens is a killer. And it's also about motherhood and how it links six very different women. And it's a little bit of a social satire about class and wealth disguised as a super fun beach read. That's my elevator pitch.
That was excellent. Like, if I didn't know better, I
Oh,
would think you
thanks.
just read that. That was very good. You get a call back. That's great. Um,
Yay!
okay, so we started with Birdie. Let's go with her because I have to say she was my favorite character, and I
Me
would
too.
wait. Okay, that's so. I was going to ask you that question if you had one in writing, but I'm so.
Yeah.
This is going to be fun for readers because book club discussions will be really fun with this because I know that I think people are going to have definitely their favorites, but she is just. First of all, like what you said about Melissa McCarthy, I think is so right. Although it's interesting, the only thing I thought of when I was reading her is, let's just say, like, well, first of all, Birdie is kind of the queen bee of this group, which are
Mm.
called the Buckhead Betties, correct?
Yeah. The Karens of Atlanta.
Yeah. And is that a real term?
It is. Yeah. They are called the
Wow.
Buckhead Betties, and they exist everywhere. But in Atlanta, Karens are called Buckhead Betties.
Interesting. And
Mm.
did you live in Buckhead for a while?
Did almost 10 years. So
Wow.
up close and personal with the Buckhead Betties, and they do exist. And like I said, they exist everywhere. And I was not one of them, just so you know. Swear.
But let me ask you, have you had any of your friends read this book so far, searching for either
Yes,
themselves or
all my
called and said,
Buckhead friends did.
yes, and are they calling and saying this is clearly so and so? Are
No,
they doing?
no,
Oh, okay,
nobody really is anybody.
okay,
They really are just from my head. So no, I didn't, I didn't populate it with people I know, but maybe there's little things. But yeah, no, none of my friends felt called out. Thank God.
yeah.
I
Well,
wouldn't have any
and of
friends
course, I
anymore.
was going to say none of your friends were those Bettys, but I just
No.
imagine like someone did you wrong one day in the carpool line, and you're like, this is how I'm getting them back.
I'm getting them back. Yeah, no. What is it? Schadenfreude? Yeah, no.
Yes, yes,
Don't
yeah.
don't believe in it. Don't believe in it. So
As they cancel your book tour to that to Buckhead because we're like, well,
protesting out in front of Barnes and Noble. Yeah,
that's exactly
burning
right.
books.
Um, so okay, so back to Birdie. She is
Mm.
kind of the ringleader, the queen bee of this group of women. And she, well, I should let you describe her actually.
Well, I think you just did. She
Yeah.
has no filter. She's tough. She doesn't care what you think of her. She just doesn't care that you might be offended by something she says. It wouldn't even occur to her. And if you're sad, oh well. Like, it's kind of like whatever Birdie wants. You'd want her in your corner. I'll say that.
Sure.
The apocalypse comes. You want Birdie Milton by your side,
Yes.
fighting the zombies. She would kill them. I promise you. So she'd be a good ally to have, but not a good enemy to have.
No, and what I loved about her is she really is the person that says the thing you'd love to say but never would. She'll say it. That's
Yep.
how I kind of pictured her. She was like, "Well, I'll just say it," and then, um, but she, like all of these characters in this book, which for any good thriller, they all have their own secrets and kind of the veneer on the outside with all of these women and men too, but primarily the women. They all have their stuff going on kind of behind the scenes.
Yeah. Yeah, they all have issues, despite me saying, oh, they're the Karens of Atlanta. They're also, as far as the book goes, real people, and everybody has issues, everybody has problems. And you always say, oh, behind the curtain kind of thing. And nobody's life is perfect, no matter how rich you are, how beautiful you are. Everyone's got something they have to deal with, and sometimes some terrible things they have to deal with. So that's definitely a part of it too, is not having so many easy preconceived notions about somebody just from outward appearance of what their life is. And that's an underlying theme in the book. Prejudice from all angles, I guess.
Yeah. And we kind of come into it through this character of Kira, who is a writer of kind of a hit series of books, a la kind of Suzanne Collins in
Yeah,
The Hunger
she's not
Games.
me. Just because she's the writer, she's not me.
Although you can say she could be you in terms of moving to a new place and just
Yeah,
breaking into a circle.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, she does have that kind of perspective, and it was good to have that character to bring into Atlanta so that you could kind of explain some stuff about Atlanta, and see it through somebody else's eyes, and really get clued into to Buckhead, which is the Beverly Hills of Atlanta.
Yeah.
It's the most prosperous section of the city, and it was important to have that kind of a character who we could follow, at least for part of it, and get that kind of information.
Yeah, who's also at the outset. She's not one of these women, like the typical kind of, what I'd say this Buckhead woman, so to speak.
Right, but I would think somebody from the outside, if they saw all of them together, would say she was. Just
Interesting.
by virtue of living in Buckhead, of being successful, of I think Kira's probably a pretty woman. They would think somebody would say she's a Buckhead Betty.
Interesting. So much of the action of the book, or a lot of the action of the book, will play out on the sports fields,
Hmm.
because many of the women, their sons, all play baseball. This is baseball,
Yeah,
softball, baseball. I love this because this is such a rich environment to me,
it is.
and my kids swam, both of them swam, so I never had this particular thing.
Probably about the same thing, though, I'm guessing. I
Yeah, but it's
mean,
just
I'm
that.
sure there was stuff that went on there.
Oh, but it's so fascinating. And the way that, young people in sports, the parents are just awful.
Crazy. They are. And it's true. And it's probably true in soccer in England, or
Yeah.
anywhere in Europe, or rugby in Australia. They're probably all the same. And I saw it up close and personal. We actually had moved to Atlanta from England, and my son was going to play baseball. So the little guy, signs up to play baseball, and the stuff, I had no idea, like, I had no idea. The one game, and it's in the book, it's actually how the book starts. And this is a true story, it's not a big deal, but we were sitting in the bleachers watching my son play baseball, and a mother from another team, these kids are like 10 or 11 years
Mm.
old, and she called one of our boys a name I can't tell you on this podcast, or you'd have to bleep me, but said, like, screamed it out in front of everybody at this little league game. And I just got sat there like, we're in little league. Like, this is bizarre. And then I remember hearing a story about how some coach was having an affair with some mother, and the husband slashed his tire. I don't know. So yeah, it was a funny thing, but and at the same time, I met some of my best friends there.
Sure.
So it's life anywhere. It's life at any corporation in America or in the
Yeah,
world, any office. It's the same thing. but yeah, it's a fun little place to put everybody and let them boil a little bit.
completely and immediately identifiable.
Hmm. Yeah.
Everybody recognizes that immediately. Now, did you know going in when you started this, for you, what was the impetus? Like, what was the spark that said, "Oh, this would be interesting if a murder revolved around this"? Or how did that start for you? And did you know who the killer
Yeah.
was going to be?
When I first thought about this, I thought somebody should write a book about the Buckhead Betties.
Mm.
And I thought at the time that that would be like a funny book to write. And then I realized, well, there's no plot. So something actually has to happen in a book. Murder. And it just kind of went from there. It percolated for a while and just grew. And I did know I did know who I wanted the murderer to be. And so at that point, it's just a matter of making sure you get there in a way that makes sense and in a way that people don't automatically get it. But when they find it out, it still makes sense. So it was a lot of that.
Okay. So then when you finish, now let me ask you this. Did you have an agent when you started writing, or was this something you submitted and then things came about that? Because I always think that's an
Submitted.
amazing thing too. Okay, you submitted.
Yeah, yeah, I had sort of the spreadsheet and I got the big guide for agents and went through, agents that were looking for thrillers, mysteries, murder things, and so narrowed it down. You send out, I learned how to write a query letter, they're called.
Mm, mm.
So I learned how to write a query letter. I took a course through, I don't know, the New School or something in New York. Um, oh no, the Gotham School in New York, and did that. I mostly did not hear from anybody. You don't even get a reply. Then I got turned down by a lot of people, and then I had two people that were interested and chose one of them, who's Leslie Sapka, who's amazing, and got really lucky there. So then I had an agent, and then we start all over. Sent it out to publishers, and it was almost the same kind of experience. Most people didn't even respond, didn't even say no, didn't say anything. And then the list got smaller and smaller, and we literally came down to not having a lot of choices, and then did. It's the Crooked Lane. And it was a great editor named Holly Ingraham stepped in and gave us a shot. So
Wow.
here we are.
And then here we are. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. And then similar to the screenwriting, did you find then working with an editor that you were going through major revisions, or was it more fine tuning?
There's not a lot I can say because
Okay. Yep. Okay.
because it does
That's
have to do with some important things in the book. But I'd say in general, it's more fine tuning. I had a little bit more leeway in saying I didn't want to do something than I would have on a screenplay. In a
okay.
screenplay, I pretty much figure if somebody tells me to do it, I have to go do it. I could. It's not even a fight. Like I can fight back. When writing a novel, you have a little more agency over your vision, I guess.
Mm,
But we really didn't have many disagreements as far as that went. I guess the biggest thing was it was originally called The Buckhead Betties. That was the
okay.
title of the book. And it was a title I loved, but the editor and the publishers rightfully said nobody else knows what that is. Unless you're in Atlanta,
Look.
they have no idea what you're talking about. Right? So we changed it, and that was
Yeah.
the right call. So at all turns, I have to kind of sit back and say, people know more than I do. And it's certainly in publishing, I knew nothing. Even in this whole part of it, getting the book released, I know nothing.
Yeah.
So let greater minds handle that and just, say, okay, like,
Sure.
I get it.
Now, were you a thriller reader previous to doing this?
I'm ashamed to say I'd never
Yeah.
read a mystery or thriller book. I like nonfiction. I like biographies. My favorite book is Ship of Gold in the Deep Blue Sea by Carrie Kinder, who is a wonderful writer. But it's like the true story of a shipwreck and the search for it, which ultimately I want to be a treasure hunter. So that was like everything to me. But so now I'm on this journey of reading all of these books by all these wonderful writers. So that's been fun to see what else is out there.
That's amazing, though, too, that I cannot believe you'd never really read a thriller before you wrote this.
Well, I
That's
grew up on TV,
crazy.
Brett. Like
Well, okay.
I'm a
Yeah.
TV kid, so it's still a mystery show. It's like a mystery book, and or a mystery book will soon be a mystery show.
Yeah, it's funny. I guess if you grew up with the like nighttime soaps, it's certainly not Murder She Wrote. It's much more, Who Shot JR?
A little bit. But it's storytelling, right?
Yeah.
Just another way of telling a story. But yeah, I am really enjoying reading all these books, though.
Oh
It's a
my
lot of
God.
fun.
They're great fun. And then what's next? Do you want to go right into another thriller? Do you want to write something different? How do you view yourself now going forward?
Yeah, I never viewed myself as a thriller writer, or a
Mm,
mystery writer. Maybe that's what I'll be. I have a two-book deal. We'll see what they want.
yeah.
And if not, I have other things I want to write in the YA space, which is what I'm used to writing. So I'm not sure. We'll find out.
Yeah, I once sat down with the writer Ashley Winstead, who, is known for her thrillers, but she writes
Okay.
other things as well. But it was interesting hearing her say she had different editors and publishers for different
Yeah.
books and different deals set up because some
Yeah.
of the thriller people were like, we just want you to do a thriller. So she was like, okay, and that was one lane. And I just thought that was
Yeah.
so interesting because she's like, I have just so many thoughts and ideas, and I just want to kind of see what's going to take me where and what I'm going to do next. So I thought that was so cool.
Yeah. My publishers have a right to a mystery
Yeah.
for the
Okay.
second book and nothing else. So, we could go to somebody else and sell something different, romance or YA or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Most of my life though is this right now.
Yeah, of course.
So,
Of
uh,
course.
so as soon as this gets settled and the book comes out and things calm down, then I'll really get back to it. And then I've got another job which is screenwriting, so trying to do that too. Yeah, just carving out the time.
No, exactly. Well, the book is great. And again, I'm a little hesitant to go too far into it because I want people to discover it themselves, and I don't
Good.
want to split open anything without them experiencing. But get the book, bless your heart, buy
Okay.
independent if you can. But at the end of the day, just buy it. It's really great fun. Congratulations. I'm so excited for you.
Thanks, Brett. You're the best.
Um,
I appreciate it so much.
good luck with all of it, and congrats.
Thank you. Thanks.